What do you think is the ultimate freedom?
I think the ultimate freedom is not giving a fuck.
Oh, I have not heard that one before. Katie.
Well, it's not on a home goods sign.
Maybe it should be.
Maybe
Live,
it
laugh,
should be.
don't give up.
Life as a mom, entrepreneur, wife, friend, and human is a lot. Join me, Katie Jacobs.
And me, Brandy Chandler, every Thursday as we have unfiltered, hilarious, and relatable conversations about the ups, the downs, and the chaos of it all.
Pour a glass and pull up a seat.
Because you're always welcome at our table.
Hey, Katie.
Hey, Brandy.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Welcome to our podcast.
If you are new, welcome to our podcast. Go
It's
listen to
called-
everything. Download every episode. You'll love it. It's a great place to be.
You really will. She's not being silly.
I'm not being silly.
She did what in the house?
She did freedom, baby.
2025.
Oh, it's our year. I'm going to knock on wood.
You can't tell us anything.
We are on a path and no one can stop us.
All right. What are we talking about?
We are talking about freedom. But before those internet trolls, those psychos on TikTok come for us, let's really define this. This
Okay.
is not a geopolitical freedom. This
Nope.
is the freedom of the soul, the freedom of the feeling inside our bodies as human beings.
Light as a feather.
Light as a feather, just sting like a bee. Right? Isn't that the same?
That's it.
That's it.
That's it. Freedom 2025.
So let's clarify that from the jump, because I feel someone moving the rock and then them just like coming for us. They just crawl out and
What do you know about freedom?
What are you?
Yeah.
Y'all, they called us like dumbasses on TikTok, and I'm like, yeah, I know. Like, we know.
You didn't claim to be the brightest bulbs.
we know. You're not saying anything we don't know.
We're just having a good time, everyone.
We're just here. We're not here for a long time. We're here for a good time,
just
Brandy.
chatting it up.
So today we're going to talk about freedom. And this is a great conversation because Brandy really took this on full on with you went after freedom in a way that really inspired me last year.
Well, and what's so weird about it? Like, I got the freedom I was going after initially, but now I'm like feeling called to even more.
It's like you opened the can of worms.
I did.
You did.
Floodgates.
And I feel like it is so inspiring. It's been so inspiring. And I do not mean that I'm not being funny or sarcastic. I'm being honest with you, to watch you shed everything that didn't serve you and battle any kind of fear to move relentlessly in the direction of feeling more free in your life.
Yeah.
And I commend you for that.
Well, I will
It's
say
beautiful.
it was a battle.
I know
It
was.
wasn't.
I know it was.
easy. You know,
I know.
we go real deep on this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but yeah, for everyone
So-
else, it's not like I was like, I'm not going to work anymore. It's going to
No.
be fabulous. Nope, not that
No,
easy.
no, not at all. Not at all. So we love to go back. We love a definition because it gives us a place to start,
Yeah,
right?
And it gives us a point of reference.
And also, we're not smart enough to define these terms. So,
Well, if everyone's thinking, we say freedom and everyone is having their own definition, you know,
Right.
half of what we say will not make even more sense to you.
right over the head. So my definition is the power or right to act, speak, or think as one wants without hindrance or restraint.
And mine was a little different. Mine is the state of being free from the control or influence of others.
I like yours better.
I like mine a lot too.
Yeah. I think yours is
Control
better.
and influence of others
Mm-hmm.
has been really big in my past. Are we 2 years now? How long am I going to say I've been having a midlife crisis for like a year?
Yeah, solid.
It's been a little longer.
It's been a solid year of crises.
So yeah, that control and influence of others,
Yeah.
big.
Yes. Big, huge.
Huge.
And if you think, we're going to dive into all of this, but if you think about that, like how much of what you do day to day is driven by what other people need, think, pleasing them, thinking of how they'll react. And washing all of that away and just moving more. I mean, selfishly in the best possible way, but selfishly in a way that brings you joy and serves your soul, and not being so consumed with others.
Yeah. Well, and there are so many subconscious things too, like how you're being marketed to. You're like, oh, I think I really like this new lipstick. But do you really? Or do they just have a woman in the ad that looks like you with kids running around and like that just says this is for you, whether it is or not?
You know the lipstick that supposedly changes for every person?
Black Honey that I brought on this podcast one time.
Okay, and I liked it, but I stood in front of Ulta, and I was like, do I like this because I actually liked it?
Or influenced you?
Yeah, but I was like, but then do I like it because I actually liked it, or do I like it just because Brandy likes it?
I have that effect.
True. You do have that effect. Let's go back. So let's try to not be so ADHD, and let's follow our timeline. So I want to talk about the first feeling of freedom, because I think that first feeling of childhood freedom gives you that the sense that you want to relive over and over. And for me, it's a lightness in the chest. Like I feel it very physically as a lightness in the chest.
Well, and I think it's interesting to look back and how telling your first taste of freedom might be on your current situation or what you want that you don't have. Like, I think that's a very interesting thing to reflect on.
I hadn't thought about it that way, but that is super interesting.
I blew your mind.
You did.
Yours is really good. Tell us yours first.
I think of when I was really young, riding bikes, feeling the literal wind in my hair, being with my best friend and just going on these adventures.
Do you have more to say?
I always have more to say.
But that's so Katie, though. You love to just go off and adventure and be in nature. Like,
I do.
That's like a huge light bulb.
No, and you know what's so funny? I had not made that connection. It's like going off with my and with my friends often, and getting into nature and just adventuring and feeling the literal wind in my hair. My mind is blown.
Maybe you should start bike riding again.
You know, I thought about that because I read a book about a woman who goes on like a long distance bike ride. And I was like, I think I want to get into cycling.
Cross country.
So anyway, yes, that freedom. And then I found that again when I started riding horses, and I mean, a much bigger, that it was just like, I don't know, I think motion is freeing for me. Movement is freeing for me. Riding my horse on trails was always so beautiful and fun. Even though I did hunter jumper stuff, it was like, that was very freeing feeling. I would just jump on and bareback and ride through the trails and jump and, gallop. And it was just, oh my gosh, like there's just nothing quite like that for me, that feeling. And I think as an adult, that's something I'm always seeking, is that lightness in the chest, that feeling of like, just like, oh my gosh, there's just nothing else.
No to-do list waiting.
No, not at all. What about you? What's your first feeling of freedom?
So this is probably very telling about me, but I don't know what it tells. I don't have any from like early childhood. Like yours is you were a child. I really start recognizing feelings of freedom in high school when I could get in the car and drive somewhere myself.
Right. Yeah.
And in college when I moved to a city where I did not know anyone.
Right.
So maybe I've always felt like really repressed by everything people put on me. Like, you're supposed to be this. Like, that's what I'm sensing.
Well, you grew up, and we've talked about this, but for anyone who doesn't know this, you grew up on a big piece of property with all of your family. And so I could see why getting in a car and getting out of that
Katie.
Sort of like, the church, the family, and all of that sort of pressure. And suddenly there's no one, and you coming from a small town, nobody's looking over your shoulder.
Yeah. And like being in a small town, like once you're a cheerleader,
that's who you are. That's
forever,
your box.
Like,
that's your pigeonhole.
Like that kind of thing. It's very hard to not necessarily reinvent yourself, but when you outgrow something, it's hard for everyone else to let go of what you were and let you be your new metamorphized.
Right. You're typecast.
Yeah.
You're the actor that always plays in the rom-com. That's who you are in a small town. And then really in any town.
This is like a crazy therapy session.
Dude, I love this therapy. I can't live without this podcast now. It's my therapy.
But also, two things stuck out to me. Okay. So moving away, where I literally knew one person in another city, in my late teens. So for college. And then in my 30s, when I finally started earning enough money to take care of myself, completely, and earning as much money as my husband, like that brought me a lot of freedom.
Yeah.
Like I stopped listening to everyone.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I can do this now.
Sure.
There is no stopping me.
Sure.
So that was a significant point in my life.
Financial freedom is huge.
Yes.
Financial freedom is a monster from a standpoint of not being beholden to anyone, whether it's a credit card company, whether it's, oh my gosh, like going into your bank account and looking and going, oh shit, how am I going to stretch, $20 through the next 10 days?
The confidence of knowing you are able to provide for yourself.
Sure.
You know, I sent you that Goldie Hawn clip. We need to link to that. That's really...
Let's link to the Goldie. I was actually thinking of that. I was hearkening to that when I...
Yeah. And she's talking about, how different society in the United States would be if all women could own their own money and not have to...
How important it is.
Anyone.
How important it is for women to financially stand on their own 2 feet.
And then...
and women couldn't... Well, like, what was it? It wasn't until like...
It was like in the
80s that a woman couldn't open
bank account.
Open a bank account on her own.
Without a man.
I was born in the 80s. This is not old. This is not written on a tablet. Like this is
if it was in the 80s, it was the late 70s. It was very near.
This is fairly recent history.
Yeah.
Opening a credit card, having a checking account, like financial independence is for women is in America is a fairly new idea in terms of like legal from a legal standpoint. Yeah. So,
but also there's a time after I, hit that threshold where I was like, I can provide for myself financially, where I was like, but maybe money wasn't the top, maybe that financial freedom wasn't what I was going after. And then we have all this that came since then.
Right. So something you did when I like to use, I don't know why, like blew up your, like you just kind of blew the lid off of things.
I like blowing it up.
When you blew it up, when you went mad woman, when you went feral, I knew you would like that. When you went feral and you shed all of this, you moved. You got out of the situation you had been in and you physically picked up and moved your family and, got like distance from it.
Literally sitting in my new house, so I went from hundreds of acres of land that I lived on to like 2-3 acres.
Josh is treating that like 100 acres. That man is digging it up.
But being in a subdivision, like completely different. But I like literally Josh and I had a conversation about it in the first couple of weeks we were living there. Like we felt so free just being in this place that the two of us picked out with our children. Like, even though it seems almost like the opposite of freedom because now we're pinned into this smaller space, we just felt so like, we really have a like, tell me what to do. Like we had a backlash attitude about it. Like, go on, because we just felt so emboldened.
You mentioned that now that you've experienced that taste of freedom, it's like all you want and crave, and you're just doing it like on a daily. Ruthlessly. Elimination of hurry. The ruthless determination to make your life free of constraint.
In so many ways. Katie. It's
been very inspiring to watch you. I'm super inspired, and I have done a lot of thinking about, I feel like you are on the other side of this mountain.
Yeah.
And I am standing at the trailhead looking up going, oh my gosh, I want to get to the top and I need a path and a plan to make my way there.
I see this happen with a lot of friends. It's not just you, but like I can see them in my journey that I just went on.
I know.
In different places. And mostly because they've shared with me, like, I'm not feeling it. We got to do something different. So I know they're on it. It's not just me making this up.
Right.
But once somebody shares that with me, I can almost like, yep, I went through that stage. Yep. I see what stage you're
Well, and it's been interesting because I feel like you're kind of holding me a bit accountable too, which is good, you know?
Am I a bad influence?
No, I think I think it's really good because I think you need those people who can acknowledge, who have been there, right? These are mentors, friends, guides, you know, whether it's an ancestral spirit guide from the heavens or someone sitting next to you on a podcast. Like, you need someone to guide and mentor you through these hard stages of life. We cannot do things alone, y'all. Like, we can't.
Yeah.
We cannot do these hard things by ourselves.
Well, the hardest part for me on this side of seeing my friends in the earlier stages of this journey is that pull where you feel like you still have to do all these things that I've now realized you don't have to do.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not a decision anyone else can tell you or show you. Like, it has to be on your own timeline and your own frame.
Sure.
Like, it's just such a personal thing. But like, you know, when I see you, don't take this wrong. When I see you, like, not, you don't even have time to eat. Like, you don't have time. And I'm like, girl, you don't have to. Like, we can. And you're like, but I can't. I have to do this. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I know that feeling. I've felt that before. But now that I'm on the other side, I'm like, you don't have to.
I know.
I'm just encouraging.
I know you are. And I do. I feel so much pressure. You know,
I've been there and I completely understand.
I work 2 jobs and I have, 3 kids. And, I have last year was working through, my parents' life and all of that pressure. It was, there was just so much. I was trying to juggle everything and just keep every ball in the air. And it was, I was in a space where I had, you can't not, I couldn't give up, right? Like, I couldn't crawl in bed and give up. Yeah. There are too many people depending on me. But now that I'm here on the other side of things, I am ready.
Yeah.
So one of the things I've been thinking about a lot is, like, I do have a lot of pressure. I do have a lot of things depending on me. I started my firstborn, Cheeky Peach, when I was 27. I've been in it for, this year will be my 15th year. And
it's a teenager now.
I love it so much. It feels like a part of my identity. But I also have been questioning, like,
what else?
Is Cheeky ready for me to pass the baton? I love it so much. And there's a lot wrapped up in that. So one of the things I was thinking about is, like, when you were talking, when we were, the cheerleader, that's your identity. Like, who would I be letting down?
Yes.
Would I be letting myself down? That's really scary, Brandy. Like, I've been thinking a lot about this, and that's really scary.
Yeah. And I think at this age that we are, the like midlife, it's easy to question, like, what else? This is my one and only life. What else should I be doing? What else do I want to be doing? So not only do you have stresses of being stressed, you have all your stressors, you also have this curiosity of how can I, I've only got limited time left. How do I want to do things a little differently now?
Yeah.
So,
but also, like, would that be a mistake? I love clothing. I love fashion. I love styling my customers. It brings me boundless joy. But I also
feel the pull.
Yeah. It's this, like, and that's where I'm practicing something that's very difficult for me, which is patience.
Oh,
and knowing that
that's a tough one.
All of this will fall into place when the time is right, when the players come to play, like, the pieces fall together. So I have the luxury of time, but I also know that this is not a sustainable practice.
Yes.
And I also, I'm feeling pulled in a lot of directions. And my kids are the biggest direction, right? I see you with Millie. I see your flexibility. I'm super jealous of that.
Hey, you want to talk about jealous? I remember the pandemic. I don't know. I feel like I still have post-traumatic over that.
Yeah.
Am I the only one?
No, I think that's why everyone feels like they're losing their minds every day.
Because my business did not take one day off. We all went to work every day.
We did too.
And
we had to. Small businesses couldn't stop.
I was so jealous of my friends that could work from home. Like we weren't working from home. We were in the office.
Yeah.
And it was just our industry. I mean, everyone in our industry did that. All of our customers, none of them took days off. And I used to get really mad because media, kind of acted like everyone was sitting at home. And I'm like, no, there are entire plants that never took a day off.
Sure.
And then it's like, we're not going to send our kids to school. And I'm like, you can do it. Like, look at all of these other places where people are working elbow to elbow on a line and they're all okay, But I remember being so jealous. Like that really, the pandemic brought about a lot of these feelings, like what you're going through and the pull and that, because that was when I put my kid in daycare, because having 3 kids at work with me, I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like I had the luxury of bringing my children to work with me. I'm so thankful for that. But then it got to be too much because they were all 3 children, different stages of life. Millie was 3 months old then.
Goodness gracious.
That happened. So
I forgot she was such a baby.
Yeah, she was tiny. And so that's when I started feeling all of those pulls. And I remember being so jealous of like my teacher friends that just got to work from home.
Yeah.
And I know that had its challenges. I am not writing that off.
This is weird. From the other side of that, it was the first time so we were coming to work like Monday through Friday, myself and 2 employees. And we were like, sort of had an agreement that we were going to just work the 3 of us together and come here, go home. That was it. So we could monitor like, our proximity to getting ill. So we were like our little work pod and we would come to work, whatever. Because we had just done I think like $70,000 renovation that we took out a loan on. Good timing, Katie, in January and in March. And we just moved to a house that felt like a big financial leap. We took on a big mortgage with an Airbnb income property. So stack those chips.
Really good timing.
Our timing was phenomenal. So stack up the huge renovation to Cheeky facelift, stack on moving to a more expensive property, stack on taking on an income property that was a super host supposed to start generating immediately, and then the world shuts down. We were fucking terrified.
Yeah.
And then I get pregnant. Date night surprise. With our beloved Matt.
You were having too much fun.
We had a good time. We almost named him Champagne. But I say all that to say, so like, it was weird though, because for the first time, Cheeky was closed on the weekend. So I've operated a business that's been open 7 days a week for 10 years at that point. And I wasn't used.
No one's out shopping.
I wasn't used to putting my cell phone down on the weekend and not feeling, it's like this buzzing. Like I always know that in the back of my head, there could be something that goes wrong. We've had a roof cave in. We've had, any manner of issues, theft, the internet goes out. So you're always kind of on. And it was like, I was turned off. And I remember one day being in the backyard with my boys, laying on this blanket, and we were just listening to music and reading dragon books. And I was like, I feel so free right now.
This is nice.
This is beautiful. I'm so present with my kids.
Yes.
Shouting out 2 new executive baddies, Jessica and Shiloh. Welcome to Patreon. We are so thrilled to have you.
So that was for me when I started having all my kids at work and I'm working full time. Like I didn't feel like I was doing a good job at any of it. I was irritable. Yeah. I was just ill and unpleasant. There was no joy going on.
Gosh, so many people relate to that.
I was very successful at doing all the things, like I was doing a good job at everything, but just it was not aligning with my soul, with my being was not in a good place at all.
Yeah.
And that's when I started having all these
feelings.
How can I do something different? I felt Millie was my only child who went to daycare. We had a great daycare though. I loved it for when we had it. I couldn't have asked for a better setup, but I had a lot of guilt around that because I felt like I wasn't giving her what I gave the others.
Right.
Yeah. So it was just this pull in all the directions, That was my beginning of it. And now that I'm on the other side, like fully on the other side, I love that freedom of being able to do one thing at a time, of being able to be with my kids when it's time that my kids need me, for being able to be here when I'm able to be here, and being able to slow down and just give attention where attention is needed at that moment. To me, that is a huge freedom.
And that's what I think it's not what I think. It's what I know I'm craving is that ability to slow down.
Yeah. The getting rid of that hurry.
Yes. Yes.
I just get more and more ill. The more like one of the first days last year that my kids went to school, that I had to take them to school and I had to be at work. Like I was so ill. I yelled at everybody that morning. It was just too much.
And that's where, we have started this shift, and JJ and I, my husband and I, have had a lot of conversations about what this looks like. And again, there is sort of, from a financial standpoint, in order for things to work out for us, we need we need to move some pieces around the board, right?
Yeah.
Like we need to move pieces around the board in order for things to make sense. So we started that last year, and that's all starting to fall into place. So this patience, this knowing, I feel like putting the energy into even talking about that feels very weird to me. Like even talking about the feeling of like, could I want to pass the cheeky baton to somebody because I love this place.
Because it's your baby.
Well, it's also, and not to say it's wildly, it's been a wild success for years, and it's how I don't know. It's how I identify. It's how I pay my bills. It's a source of so much joy for me.
Other people have a hard time understanding that too. So they're going to look at you like you're crazy. Like, why do you want to get rid of this successful business?
I don't want to get rid of it though. I would love, I think so let's talk about the ideal, vision of freedom is some way that I could be a mentor to someone.
To take over.
To take the reins, You
can say it.
Take the reins.
You can do it, Katie.
But I know that's probably a longer. That's not. I'm not going to get to that place in 5 days or this year,
and that was what I was
or next year.
say.
This is a slow burn.
As someone who's done a lot of this, it is nothing that you can say you're going to do today. You can start doing it tomorrow, but it's not going to click into place tomorrow. It is a process,
and I'm not ready. I'm not ready. I'm very afraid of all of this too. It's scary. It's really, really scary.
So scary.
Yeah.
So I've told you this before, it's so hard to just break your habits. So even when I said, I'm not going to work at my old job anymore, I probably did 6 months of going in half days.
I know. And you were in recently.
Oh yeah. But it was just hard to break that habit. And what do? Yes, I was passing the baton, like you say. So I was setting other people up to do stuff. There were loose ends being tied up, but it was just hard to not go to work.
You're used to
that.
That
is what you're used to, that hustle,
right?
To de-hustle
out of
that's
that. Right. I had a really interesting conversation with an employee one day, and it was a light bulb moment for us. And she has graduated since and moved on, but it was sort of a light bulb moment for both of us. And she said to me, it was when my son was struggling with school and we were trying to get him caught back up to grade level. It was the first time really in so many years I had taken a step back from work. And she said, because she worked a lot of afternoons and I was leaving to go
to get the kids
to go meet my kids off the bus and start homework and start work, take him to tutor and, all this stuff to do the work of getting my son to where he needed to be. And she looked at me and she said, oh my gosh, I just I never see you anymore. I miss you. And I looked at her and I said, what do you think my kids say every day? And it was like I saw a light bulb go off for her. And I felt the light bulb in my heart. What do you think my kids say? My kids know that there are weekends mom has to go to work. They know that there are events mom has to work at night. They know that mom has to travel for work sometimes. And it's I don't want to miss out anymore. I missed out on so much of my oldest son's life.
And that's a fine balance because you do want to show them that mom can do all these things. Mom works, mom's important.
Oh, trust me. That is how I have justified. When I was working, right after I had Griff, when I was working nonstop. Nonstop. that was the justification. My kids are seeing a strong mom go to work. And yes, that's beautiful, but I went way too far in the other direction.
Yeah. Well, and that was one of my light bulb moments when I was like, I've got to get something moving differently, was when my children started defaulting to, well, it's okay if you have to work. Like they knew mom had to work first. And I was like, no, I want you to be first, and that's not the same for everyone. Some women might want to work first, and that is fine for them.
No, there's a lot of, and that's awesome.
I am not shaming that at all. But in my heart, I wanted my kids.
Well,
to be
and let's be really clear again, because I can feel the trolls. Not that I speak from anything but the heart, but let's be clear that this is about my journey.
Yes.
This is not about any other woman's journey. This is my journey. And our goal with this is that whatever freedom looks like, maybe freedom is going and getting a job for someone.
Yeah.
I've been 100. At home. I've been doing this grind.
I've been there. That was my 30s when I wanted to be financially independent. I've been there.
Mm-hmm. So this can look so many different ways. This is just specific to my life and my vision of what the future holds.
Yeah. The whole podcast, we can only speak of what we know and what we're going
That's
through.
right. So
that's all we're giving you, people, is what happened to us. Okay. This is how it happened.
This is the story.
But yeah, that was a big one for me, is when my kids started defaulting to thinking mom's work was more important than things they wanted me to do with them.
Right.
But then this morning, my kid was like, I'm at leading chapel today at school. I was like, you can't tell me the morning of.
He's like, in 15 minutes.
Literally.
I'll be at the front of the line. Thanks for the drop off, Mom.
20 minutes, Mom. It's time. I was like, I texted another mom. I was like, he didn't tell me till this morning. Can you video that?
I am the perpetual, can someone take a picture of my kid?
So there are still times when I'm not. I phoned it in this morning, literally.
Some of you might be wondering, what the F is this Patreon I keep hearing about? Well, baddies, it's a membership platform where we put additional content, monthly catch-ups, episode extensions, and so much more. If you love what you're hearing, head to our website, shedidwhatpodcast.com, or our Instagram at podcastsshedidwhat, the link in bio, and join us at this VV VIP table.
We've talked about our past, year or so. We've talked about what freedom looks like to us right now. What do you think is the ultimate freedom?
I think the ultimate freedom is not giving a fuck.
Oh, I've not heard that one before. Katie.
Well, it's not on a home goods sign.
Maybe it should be. Live, laugh, don't give a
live, laugh, don't give a fuck. I'm not being flippant.
She is not.
Just living truthfully to one's own. And what we started this podcast with is shedding expectation and the fear that comes from letting people down. I'm a very type A overachiever. Like going back to like my parents, it's like a lot of the stuff that was happening, I felt such a responsibility to make sure that I handled everything with so much care, even though it seemed like no one around really gave a shit. But I gave all the shits. Yeah. I gave every fuck. And it's just like, sorry, Mima. And sorry. There's a lot of them. But it's true. And I
just come out.
I don't want to live like that, And but then also it's like, okay, but this is also who I am. So is that, then I am being true to myself. But I see these people who just can live almost a more enlightened, light free. You're one of them. I mean,
I'm enlightened? Well, I'm digging it.
No, you are. I do think you have unlocked a level that I have not yet reached.
Okay, I like that phrasing better. I have unlocked a level.
You've unlocked a new level.
Because this is not my natural state, believe it or not. I am easily worked up.
Well, do you remember when we first started the podcast a year ago and I was like, are you medicated? What's happening?
That's when I was jumping off the deep end. But I had to be, because if I don't chill it so far out, I don't have to be medicated. I have to be chill. I'm not medicated.
No, I feel like you were just kind of like,
if I don't, it is my I am very type A too. Sure. It is my tendency to do all the things, make all the things perfect all the time. So I have to swing way to the other side. I don't have a middle ground, really. I can't operate there.
There's no gray area
because
for
I'm
you.
too quick back into the old habits.
Yeah. So you have to kind of go the other way.
Yeah, I have to go extreme.
So when we started the podcast and you always seemed so laid back.
I was working on it.
Yeah.
It was a very active.
Yeah. So then you're telling us you're telling me, our listeners, that like, this is work you have to do.
Oh.
You have to retrain.
Every day.
You have to retrain to slow
day
down.
So hard.
Yeah.
And it's almost, we've talked about this before, that, this is such a circular conversation because this is going on with a lot of other stuff in our lives. So we've both been working towards a Sabbath, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like mine is like a Sabbath as in a true day of rest, but also in worship. So I have a lot going on there. It is so hard. Like I'm on how many weeks of doing it now? I have not fully succeeded. I don't know.
Yeah, we have not succeeded.
It's so hard.
Difficult. It is really, really difficult
to not do anything, to not throw in one load of laundry.
No, I mean, like it's like impossible for me.
It's so hard, but that's every day. And I've also noticed that, and I've noticed this in my Sabbath journey, but also in my just chill out journey for freedom, is that I have to slow down everything to be able to get that one thing slowed and specifically.
One of the worst Sabbath days, and so when I say Sabbath, I mean, I'm going to practice a day of like, mine is not at all tied up in any sort of religious belief. It is just a day where I'm using that word because I think people understand it and can get there quickly. It's a day where no work is done. You do nothing but spend time with family. And I love in the Jewish faith how that starts on Friday with a meal together with the family. And a prayer. I think that's so beautiful. I love Judaism and the practice of like kicking off your restful weekend time with family.
Yeah.
Regardless of the day you choose, it is about shutting down. And for us being with family and resting, I was inspired by my friend Laura Whitaker, who is she is a speaker and an entity. Like she's just like a powerhouse. She is a woman I've always looked up to. And I saw her practicing this. And then you and I started talking about it and trying to practice. I had one of my worst Sabbath attempts.
They go wrong so quick. It's like Costco.
Only we could fuck up a Sabbath. Like we're like,
do you want to go to Costco today?
So I had such a stressful week. I had been going nonstop. Well, your neurological like self, the way everything's firing in your system to go from like 9 million miles an hour to then, okay, now I need you to stop everything.
Yeah, it is hard.
It's like, I can't run a sprint and then just lay down and breathe slowly. So you got to, so you really have to, in order to properly practice that, I think, slow everything down because it was horrible. I was so jumpy, so jittery. I wanted to crawl out of my skin. It was not a fun day. And I felt unaccomplished. I felt frustrated. Okay, well, that's kind of not there either, is it?
This is not the point of the Sabbath.
There is nothing freeing about that experience for me. So I think you're right. That slowdown, you really have to like slow that train down, thinking about it on Monday. You know what I mean? And just slow.
You have to slow it all down, which I like it. I'm there for it. I think that's a good thing. But it's just not, you don't think about that when you say, I'm going to do a Sabbath. You can't just shut that thing down.
No, you can't shut that thing down.
So yeah, I think the ultimate freedom. So it's easy to go time here. Like everyone thinks if I have more time, if I free up my time, but I don't think it's time. I think it might be where we put our attention.
Mm-hmm.
What you give your attention to is what you're worshiping, for lack of better words.
Mm-hmm.
I think attention might be it. What do you think?
Yeah, I think attention's really important. Intention's important. I think it's so hard, Brandy.
I just feel like we are what we give our attention to.
Yeah, absolutely. And giving your body and your brain what they need, right? My body and brain, to go back to my childhood, crave that sense of freedom. that wind in your hair in nature.
Yeah.
Well, then that's what I need to do more of. And I need to be more intentional about when and how I do that.
And talking about this reminded me about slowing the whole train down to get to a Sabbath day of rest. There's a C.S. Lewis quote that like will hit you like a train of bricks.
A train of bricks. Ooh. Ouch.
Sorry about that.
It'll hit you like a train of bricks with a firecracker in it.
A ton of bricks. I was so excited to get
it's
to
okay. I'm
so
sorry.
you are how you act when you're interrupted.
Say it again.
So who you are as a person is how you act when you're interrupted. So imagine you're in here at the office.
Annoyed
Already. And I don't want to say your children because you might have a soft spot for your children.
I do.
And not be as mean to them as other people. But someone comes in and they're like, Katie, I need Saturday off. How do you feel about your reaction?
White hot rage.
And that hit me so hard.
No, like the interruption of it. White hot rage.
I do not like to be interrupted. So when I think about myself as being the person I am when I'm interrupted, I'm like, I need to do a little bit of work here.
Ooh.
I need to do
that's
a
depressing
little work. But yeah.
Oh gosh.
But it goes back to attention. What are you giving your attention to?
I don't understand the connection there, but maybe
like
I'm not
because
smart
if you're like living in the moment and you're
that won't bother you. You're zen, baby.
Yes, you're zen. And so someone interrupts you, you want to give them your full attention.
Oh my
and
gosh.
so you're not annoyed. That's not me.
Can I tell you a funny story?
Yeah.
I might have to cut this. I'm not sure. So stressed out, had a kids project. This is going a while back.
You and these kid
I
projects.
know. And looking for the hot glue gun. What I found
I know the story. What did you find, Katie?
was the pen of freedom, if we will. Couldn't find the hot glue gun. You know what I did?
You had some freedom.
I had a little taste of freedom. And then suddenly I found the hot glue gun. And then everything just became fun.
See?
And
you
chill
found
and easy.
The freedom
and my husband came
and
home.
Then the real thing came up.
And my husband came home and he was like, what is this version of you?
Been freedoming in here.
Whew, someone is feeling freedom. And I did. I felt a lot of freedom. And I enjoyed what I was doing as opposed to just being so frustrated.
Yes.
And,
I could have interrupted
it wasn't so bad. It wasn't so bad.
I like it for you, Katie.
Yeah.
Maybe we just need to keep a pen in your pocket.
A little freedom pen everywhere we go.
I'm going to make a sticker for it. Pen of freedom.
Yeah.
I like that story. I think that's a great example.
But I want to do that without having to find a pen of freedom, if you know what I mean. Like, I would love to just live in that state of just...
You can do it.
Relaxation.
You can do it every day.
I know. I think I need to get back into my psychosomatic therapy. But that's
every day.
That's another podcast episode.
So what kind of freedom do you think is on your horizon? What are you looking forward to?
I loved reading Ina Garten's book because she just talks, she's a very free person. And anytime she just didn't like something, she just went, I'm just going to change it.
Yeah.
I idolize that. I've idolized her since I was in my 20s. My grandparents, my mom and I, we have been fans for such a long time of hers, and finding out who she really is at her core from her memoir of just this very fly by the seat of her pants. She worked as she worked in the back office of I don't know what kind of I can't remember if it was a strip club or a sex phone work. Yeah. I
did not know that.
She has this funny, wild past of just doing whatever to just get to the next thing. And I was really inspired when I read her book and through your journey. And it's really funny. Here's what I know about life. When you start to feel the inkling of change, and I say this about starting a business, talk about it. Because when you start to talk about it and you start to put things into the universe, it'll start to gain momentum and synergy, and it'll start to attract what you want it to attract, good attention. And if you start, it's like where you put your intention, right?
Yeah.
Or attention, where you put your attention. And so if you start to put your attention there and you start to talk about it and bring it to life, and not just, in your head in the middle of the night, think about it, but actually start to have conversations around it, it'll start to get legs.
And that's why I love this podcast. That's what we do. Like we are bringing to air, to the internet,
To the universe,
all the things that we talk about.
to Spotify, Apple, YouTube, or wherever you listen.
Hit us up for a sponsorship. We're bringing, the things we talk about personally and the things we talk with our friends out to the bigger audience of women.
Yeah.
Because we know they're all thinking it.
Well, and these conversations are scary. Talking about making such a huge shift is really, really terrifying. Change is scary because
it's the worst.
You don't know what's coming, and
you're so fearful, and your brain is just focused on all of those fears.
Well, your brain is programmed to avoid fear, right?
Flight or fight,
right?
Fight or flight,
right? From your most basic, lizard brain or whatever, frog brain, lizard brain. I'm so
we are
you're
not.
You're brilliant.
We are not nailing the.
I'm just here for the ride. But from that lizard brain, sort of like, yes, that we are programmed to move away from fear. And when you are going to blow up your life and make a big change, all you're facing is fear of the unknown. And I think when you start to talk about it, or you have friends or mentors or guides or, God or whatever you're looking to for guidance, whatever place that takes you, you can really start to feel empowered and emboldened, because we can't do this by ourselves. And this is something I was thinking last night about this episode. Every woman I know who is strong, who has been through a big change or a big metamorphosis, whatever that might be, has a host of women standing behind her, holding her up.
Yeah.
Like the Statue of Liberty has an anchor. Like she does not stand alone. You know what I mean? And like we can't do these big hard things without our communities, without our core of friendship. This is our survival.
That's funny that you said that. I haven't thought about this in relation to this episode, but when I first was deciding to leave my family's business, but I hadn't told them yet, I put a phone call in because finances were like the biggest thing in my
we were like, as they are for probably everybody.
How are we going to live?
That's everybody. I think
we don't have a job. Like, what do we do?
100%.
And I called one of my girlfriends. She's been my girlfriend for a very long time, but she's older than me. So she's a little wiser than me. And she left a job where she was making a ton of money and went into a job that wasn't as financially flush.
Okay.
You could say.
Okay.
But I knew like she had been like, and she had that job where she was making a lot of money before she had kids. So, and then she started making kids, and then she wanted the freedom of her time back to be with her kids. So she took a job that had a kid's schedule, not as much money. And I was like, how did you do that? How did you feel about that? Like, did you lose your worth? Like, I was worried about losing myself from losing a job and from being able to provide. She talked me through all that, and she told me about her journey. Newsflash, she thought it was fabulous. She said it's the best thing I've ever done. So
yeah,
here I am. So, but no, that was a huge point for me, is reaching out to her and having her just share how she did it and her thoughts on it. And now she's back in the other career she started.
Oh,
now that the kids are big, she's like, the money's still waiting for you. You can go back another day.
And I do think that a lot of, and you do see and hear women, okay, now I'm an empty nester. I'm ready to get back into something. So there's always the ability, hopefully, to get back, go back, whatever that looks like. I can think of, like, my friend just popped into my head who is a nurse, and she, maintained all of her, credentials and stayed home for a long time. And then she slowly started getting her foot back in.
But just the women supporting, that was my point. It's just the women,
who support
you, reach out, and they will help.
Yeah. We have these systems in place for a reason. You don't have to stay tossing and turning in the middle of the night, having these thoughts on your own.
No, Katie gives me all of hers.
I know. I'm sorry.
I'm joking. She's like, what do you think about this?
Sorry, I'm not sorry. And then you're like, here's some videos of people petting donkeys. You should get some donkeys. I almost bought a chicken coop last week.
You should have rescued that donkey. That was the cutest thing.
Oh my God, it was such a cute
I have ever
donkey.
seen.
Oh, okay. Now we're getting off track. So freedom moving forward, you're just, what does that look like for you? You're just continuing this journey in 2025.
I'm really trying, I slowed down career-wise, but I'm really trying to slow down everything. I really want a Sabbath.
Yeah.
Like a real
Are we going to
Sabbath.
make Sabbath happen in 2025?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You think?
Yeah.
I'm skeptical.
Me too. But I'm working towards it.
Good for you. I like your positivity.
Yeah. And just being like really putting my attention where I want it to be at, a certain time. That can shift.
Yeah.
It's not like only one thing ever gets your attention. But when I'm with my kids get my attention. When I'm at work, my work gets my attention,
Be where your feet are.
Yeah. I just really want to continue working on that.
Yeah. We're a work in progress.
Ain't that the truth?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or a mess in progress. Either way.
Or both.
Yeah. So this was interesting.
I love this conversation. I'm really interested. We're at the top of the year. I'm really interested to see where we go this year. I'm excited for this podcast. For those of you who have been here since the beginning, thank you. For our sponsors, thank you. For those of you who are just jumping in, we love having you here. If you love what we're doing, please download all of our episodes, listen to them. We'd love to hear feedback from you. Join our Patreon. It's a great place to pick up. For some reason, we've always felt a little protected by the paywall and we get a little unhinged over there. So if you love unhinged content, go get behind that paywall and see what's happening. Patreon is a membership platform for those of you who don't know, for us to continue these conversations. And we just really hope that at the end of the day, we continue. I think the love of our friends, one of our first episodes that was so beloved was friendship, and the love of our friends and our communities as women was the genesis of this podcast, and how you were getting ready to blow up your life and you said, I want to start this podcast. I want to talk through this journey.
Yeah. And we have some friendship episodes coming up.
Yes, we
do. Stay tuned to our little gals that we love.
Yes, absolutely. And we hope that you all have put 2024 to bed and you are ready for a beautiful, whatever that looks like. And we hope that you are ready for a beautiful 2025.
I know. Let's do it.
Let's make it happen.
Baddies.
We love you, baddies.
2025.
Yep.
We will catch you next week. Hey, baddies. If you are liking what you're hearing, head over to our Instagram, podcast She Did What. There you will find our link in bio with all of our contacts, website, Patreon, a number to text, and voicemail. Also, don't forget to auto-download us wherever you're listening and leave us a review to share the love with more baddies.